from Gipper's Newsreader. In today's video, we're diving into former President Donald Trump's 10-part plan to reshape the federal government. This plan, outlined in March 2023, aims to reduce the federal government's influence and target the deep state. We're talking about the entrenched bureaucracy, unelected officials with significant power and influence. Trump argues this bureaucratic behemoth is too large, powerful, and resistant to the will of the people. Over the next few segments, we'll break down each part of this plan, examining its potential impact on American governance. The first pillar in Trump's plan focuses on Schedule F, an executive order he introduced in October 2020. It could fundamentally alter the relationship between the executive branch and the federal workforce. Schedule F reclassifies certain federal employees in policymaking roles. These are influential positions, not average paper pushers. Trump argues the current system makes it hard to remove bureaucrats working against the administration. Entrenched individuals may pursue agendas contradicting the elected administration. Schedule F aims to restore accountability to the federal workforce. Critics of Schedule F argue it would politicize the civil service, prioritizing loyalty over merit. They envision a revolving door of political appointees disrupting government function. Or is it a scare tactic by those benefiting from the status quo? Supporters argue it's about aligning power with the will of the people. They contend the current system fosters impunity and corruption. The debate over Schedule F asks, who should govern? Moving on to the second part of Trump's plan, we delve into the realm of law enforcement and intelligence agencies, specifically the FBI and the CIA. Trump argues these agencies have become too centralized, too powerful, and too susceptible to political bias. His skepticism stems from investigations into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election. Trump maintains these were politically motivated witch hunts to undermine his presidency. The FBI has faced intense scrutiny over allegations of political bias. Trump's proposal to decentralize aims to address this bias and make agencies more accountable. Critics argue this proposal weakens national security by fragmenting agencies, making coordination harder. They fear vital intelligence could fall through the cracks, leaving us vulnerable. But is that a realistic fear, or a scare tactic by those benefiting from the status quo? Supporters argue decentralization enhances security, making manipulation harder. They point to the dangers of unchecked power, advocating for a more resilient system. Local communities would have a greater say, making agencies more accountable. This debate is about balancing security and liberty in a free society. Let's talk about the administrative state. Unelected bureaucrats amass power that rivals elected officials. They churn out regulations, stifling businesses and limiting freedom. This isn't hyperbole, it's reality. We've seen it with the EPA, the IRS, the list goes on. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. These agencies have become bloated and unaccountable. Do we want to be governed by elected officials or by unelected bureaucrats? The answer should be obvious. Trump's plan to dismantle the administrative state is crucial. It's about ensuring the government serves the people, not the other way around. So how do we tackle this Leviathan? It's about targeted strategic action. We need to reduce the regulatory burden, empower Congress to exercise its oversight authority, and fundamentally rethink the relationship between the executive branch and the administrative state. Trump's plan recognizes that not all regulations are bad, but the current system incentivizes overreach and mission creep. We need to ensure that regulations are necessary, effective, and crafted with input from those they impact, not dictated by unelected bureaucrats with their own agendas. This requires a fundamental shift in thinking. It's about restoring the principles of federalism, where power is shared between the federal government and the states. It's about empowering individuals and businesses to thrive without the heavy hand of government constantly interfering. This is about more than just policy. It's about preserving the very soul of our nation. It's about ensuring that the government remains accountable to the people, not the other way around. And that's a fight worth having. For too long, we've seen a disconnect between the American people and their government. This isn't just about policy disagreements, it's about a fundamental erosion of accountability. Career bureaucrats entrenched in their positions have become increasingly insulated from the consequences of their actions. This lack of accountability breeds complacency, arrogance, and a disregard for the very people these agencies are supposed to serve. It creates a system where unelected officials can operate with impunity, their actions often shielded from public scrutiny. This is unacceptable in a nation founded on the principles of self-governance. We, the people, deserve a government that answers to us, not the other way around. Trump understands this, and his plan to increase accountability is a vital step in restoring trust between the government and the governed. It's about ensuring that those who wield the power of government do so with a sense of responsibility and a commitment to serving the interests of the American people, not their own personal or political agendas. Reinstating Schedule F is key. It gives the president more authority to hire and fire federal employees in policymaking positions. Critics claim this politicizes the civil service, but the bureaucracy is already politicized, just not in favor of the American people. This ensures those in government are committed to the people's will. It's about competence and a shared vision for our nation's future. Federal agencies should serve the American people, not obstruct the president's agenda. This restores the balance of power, returning control to the people. One of the most dangerous trends we've witnessed in recent decades is the growing culture of secrecy within government. Too often, crucial decisions are made behind closed doors, shielded from public scrutiny and accountability. This lack of transparency breeds distrust and suspicion. It allows for corruption to flourish and for unelected bureaucrats to operate with impunity. It undermines the very foundations of a free and open society. This is particularly concerning when it comes to agencies involved in national security and foreign policy. The intelligence community, for example, wields immense power, and its actions have far-reaching consequences. Yet too often these actions are shrouded in secrecy, even from those tasked with overseeing them. This lack of transparency is not only undemocratic, it's dangerous. It allows for mistakes to be swept under the rug, for abuses of power to go unchecked, and for the intelligence community to become a law unto itself. Transparency strengthens national security. Confidence in government leads to support, even with sacrifices. Trump's transparency plan is key to restoring trust. Handle classified information responsibly and avoid overclassification. Demand accountability from intelligence agencies and empower congressional oversight. Ensure government operates openly in a democratic society. All right, let's talk regulatory agencies. These are the bureaucratic behemoths, often unelected, that churn out regulations like nobody's business. We're talking EPA, FDA, you name it. The problem, they've become bloated, inefficient, and often beholden to special interests. Trump sees this, and he's proposed a radical solution: restructuring. This means streamlining, consolidating, maybe even dismantling parts of these agencies. The goal? To make them more efficient, more accountable, and less likely to stifle American innovation with mountains of red tape. It's about time someone took on the administrative state, folks. These agencies have been operating with impunity for far too long, issuing rules and regulations that impact our lives and our businesses without real oversight. It's a recipe for disaster, and Trump's plan to restructure is a necessary step in the right direction. The founders never intended for unelected bureaucrats to wield this much power. They gave that power to Congress. But Congress has delegated more authority to these agencies. Trump's plan seeks to reverse this trend. By restructuring these agencies, he's putting Congress back in the driver's seat. No more unelected bureaucrats making decisions. The left will scream bloody murder, but don't buy it. It's about restoring accountability. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. Now let's talk about congressional oversight, or the lack thereof. For too long, agencies like the FBI and CIA have operated as independent fiefdoms, unaccountable to the people they're supposed to serve. We saw this during the Russia hoax with the politicization of intelligence and the weaponization of law enforcement. Trump wants to change that. His plan calls for increased congressional oversight of these agencies, particularly in areas like intelligence gathering and law enforcement. This means more transparency, more accountability, and less opportunity for these agencies to act as rogue actors pursuing their own agendas. The left will tell you this is an attack on our intelligence community. They'll say it's dangerous to question the intelligence agencies, that we need to trust them blindly. But blind trust got us the Iraq War, folks. Blind trust got us the Russia hoax. What we need is accountability, and that's exactly what Trump is trying to achieve. Look, the Founding Fathers were clear about the separation of powers. Congress writes the laws, the executive branch enforces them, and the judicial branch interprets them. But these agencies started operating above the law. Trump's plan is about restoring that balance of power, ensuring agencies are answerable to the people's representatives, not operating as unaccountable entities. This is about restoring the rule of law and ensuring these agencies work for the American people. The left will cry foul, of course, but Trump is trying to save our democracy, reining in these out-of-control agencies and restoring accountability to our government. And that's something we should all support, regardless of our political affiliations. We all have a stake in ensuring our government is accountable to the people. Let's be honest, folks. Washington is a swamp. And like any swamp, it's teeming with creatures that have been there far too long. I'm talking about career politicians, people who spend decades in office, enriching themselves and accruing power while losing touch with the people they're supposed to represent. This is a bipartisan problem, folks. Democrats and Republicans, they all get sucked into the swamp eventually. They go to Washington with good intentions, but the system corrupts them. They become beholden to special interests, lobbyists, and donors, and they forget about the people they're supposed to serve. Term limits are the solution. By limiting the number of terms a member of Congress can serve, we can break the cycle of corruption and ensure that fresh blood is constantly cycling through Washington. This will bring new ideas, new perspectives, and most importantly, a renewed focus on serving the people, not special interests. The entrenched political class will fight against term limits. They'll claim it takes away your right to vote, but it's about giving you more rights. Career politicians focus on re-election, not service. You're stuck with the same old faces and ideas. Term limits break that cycle. They give you, the voter, more power. Term limits are the key to making that happen. Now let's talk about FISA courts. These courts authorize surveillance on foreign agents, but have targeted political opponents. The Obama administration spied on the Trump campaign using flimsy pretexts. Trump knows the danger of these courts without proper oversight. His reform plan is essential to safeguarding our democracy. We must ensure government power isn't used as a political weapon. So, what does real FISA reform look like? It means stricter safeguards, a higher burden of proof, and an end to the rubber stamping of warrant requests based on partisan agendas. It means accountability for those who would abuse the system, who would twist the law to serve their own political ends. We need to make it clear that the FISA courts are not a playground for political witch hunts. Trump's plan aims to do just that. By reforming the FISA process, we can restore integrity to these courts, ensure that they are used only for their intended purpose, protecting America from legitimate foreign threats. This is not a radical notion, folks. This is common sense. This is about upholding the Constitution, protecting individual liberty, and ensuring that justice is blind, not beholden to partisan interests. The Founding Fathers, in their infinite wisdom, designed a system of limited government, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. But somewhere along the line, that vision became distorted. We've seen the rise of the administrative state, a sprawling bureaucracy unaccountable to the people it purports to serve. This unelected fourth branch of government churns out regulations, dictates policy, and operates with little to no oversight from the people's representatives. This is not the America our Founding Fathers envisioned. This is not the America we deserve. This is why Trump's plan to restore constitutional order is so critical. It's about reining in the administrative state, about returning power to the people and their elected representatives. It's about ensuring that the government serves the people, not the other way around. It's about restoring the balance of power, about reaffirming the principles of limited government and individual liberty that made this nation great. Trump's vision is clear, a government that is accountable to the people, not to unelected bureaucrats. A government that operates transparently, not in the shadows. A government that respects the Constitution, not one that seeks to circumvent it. This means empowering Congress, the people's branch, to exercise proper oversight over the executive branch and its agencies. It means ensuring that federal employees understand they serve the American people, not their own career ambitions. This is not about dismantling the government, as some would have you believe. This is about making it work better, about making it more efficient, more effective, and more accountable to the people it is supposed to serve. This is about returning to the core principles of our founding, to the idea that government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. It's about restoring the promise of America, the promise of a government that works for us, not against us. Trump's 10-part plan represents a broad attempt to fundamentally reshape the federal bureaucracy, reduce what he sees as unchecked power in federal agencies, and return governance closer to the vision of the Founding Fathers. While supporters see this plan as a restoration of government accountability, critics argue that it could lead to job insecurity and an administration-controlled workforce. What do you think about Trump's plan? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses. Don't miss the bus.